Hi everyone. Today we're going to teach you how to use triggers in Trainz when you're editing a session to make your gameplay. We asked a couple of questions online to see if anybody wanted to know anything specific about triggers, and Rob3v3 wanted to know this about them. We'd like to be able to set or lock the junctions in advance so that the first AI driver arriving from A or C to reach their first junction will have priority over the other. Once cleared, the junctions are to be unlocked in readiness for the next train. Is there a need for a clearance trigger to indicate the first train has passed? What additional commands are necessary? I would also like to know how this procedure needs to be installed properly through the edit session to operate correctly with signals and or track marks. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, if you've got your layout set up correctly in Trainz, your track layout, Trainz AI should take care of most of this automatically. It's not to say that if you wanted a specific train to be first in through the single line, then you might need something like you're asking, Rob. So we can definitely show you how to do it, but Trainz should take care of the majority of it, provided that the first train that's coming in will be the first train that goes out. So anyway, let's have a look at setting this up in Trainz. So I'll just move this over to my left. And we're going to use Kickstarter County for this particular scenario. So we're going to create a session. Excuse me. Alright. We will use the same sort of setup as Rob was wanting. So we'll use this track. Okay, so we'll use this track here as A. This will be D. So let's put some track markers on there. Jump into the tracks tab and track marker mode and select our track marker. So we select that one, name it TMA, so track marker A. This one's going to be track marker D from Rob's example. Then they both come in, and we'll use this one as his single line, and we'll make this one track marker B. I've got this open on the other screen, so flick back to the forum if you want to have a look at it. And track marker C. So CB, single line onto A and D, which is fairly similar to what the image is that Rob's got. Now let's put some locos down. We will start off with putting one loco over here. And let's do the Kenua. Put a tender on him. So we'll put one there. And we will put, so one's at A and the next one will be at B. And just to differentiate him, we'll put a caboose on the back. Right. There's our locos. So if we were to let these run with the AI, let's have a look at what happens. We add our first steam loco. He was the first one we added. He is Adair, and the second one is Alan, I believe. Yes. Let's get drive to track marker. He wants to go from A to C, so he wants to drive the track marker C since he's already at A, and we want to go from B to D. So he's already at B, we want to go to D. Now this is the AI automatically doing things for us. So if we jump in to here, track marker B, that's where he's at. He's going to drive to D, which is over here. And he's at A, and he's going to drive around and go to B. C, sorry, C. Just make sure I did check that, set it to C. Yes, C. Right. Now, just say I wanted this guy to have the priority, be the first train in, the first train out. I can't really tell that is actually going to happen without me dragging him as close to this line as possible, since that's the actual line that they're going to share. So the closest train will most likely get through first. So I would say it is going to be this train, but you never know. Let's have a look. Save it as trigger example. But we are only using track markers and the AI pathing at the moment. Alright, so they're both on their way. He started smoking, so is he. And the junctions currently, with the AI controlling them, look like this. So it's definitely set for a track marker D at the moment, whereas this guy will probably have to stop. He's got a red signal, so I guess this guy is actually going to stop at a signal here. For now, he's still coming through. More than likely this guy will get the right of way since he's already occupying the single track. Okay, so he's changed the signal and he's off. Let's speed it up a little bit. So that is just them navigating to track markers. Eventually this guy will be given to go through. I think I actually switched that. Or maybe he did. Anyway. AI, sorry, I think I actually clicked that in the world, but AI can easily do it for you, whether that's the priority that you wanted the trains to go in is a different story. So let's say we want this guy to be the priority now. He's going to get right away first, and then our other guy will go through second. We're going to make that happen with triggers. We jump out. Okay. We need a trigger here. And we'll call it trigger A. So we have track markers and triggers now. We'll put one on. We'll put one over here, so when he arrives, we'll do something. So we call it trigger C. And then I think Rob also mentioned he wanted to clear the junctions and make them accessible by anyone once all the locos go through, or once each of them go through. So we'll have to put another one over here to do that. So trigger D. Alright, this guy, he needs to go first. So what we will do is we'll probably do this manually. We won't set them up to drive schedulely. So we'll drive this guy will drive at least first, and then we'll set this guy up automatically to drive off once we hit the trigger. So we'll control this guy to start off with. What we need to do then is get rid of their schedules. We add in a trigger. And we say we only want it to trigger once. If you want your triggers to go off all the time when trains hit them, then don't click this. But we only want this to trigger once, so we may as well just tick it. We know that it's trigger A is right next to the train, so once he gets into that trigger, this rule is going to fire. We can accept all trains if we want, which means any trains that enter this trigger are going to fire and perform the actions or the child actions under this trigger rule. Or we can go only accept the trains we specify. So you've got options of specific vehicles, specific types, or the drivers. And the drivers are fairly handy, and we know that the guy driving this train is Dare. So any train that has a Dare as the driver will fire this rule off. So we've set that up. Trigger A with a Dare hitting it. The next one we want is a set junctions rule, and we make that a child, and by that you can right click and you can go invert, you can go indent or outdent to make that a child. I just use Control F, which are the Control Left and Control Right, which are the shortcut keys. So what we need to do now is we need to go off and find our junctions that we want to change and lock in place. So the first junction we come to is this one, then that one, this one, and finally that one to get us to our destination, our track marker and our trigger. We want to make sure we hit that as well. So we need to write these down and work out which way we want them facing. The best way to work out which is left or right, just looking at the junction, is to work out where the fork happens. So if you're going from a single lane or a single line to a double or a triple, then that's how you're going to determine whether it's left, right, or center. So we're going from the single lane and we're going left or right. So we want the junction to be right because that's the track we're going to be taking. For this one, left or right, we want it to be right. This one's left or right, we want it to be right. So we've got to switch that one, turn this one around. Left or right, we want it to be right as well. And finally, left or right, we want it to be right. So they're simple enough. We want everything to be to the right on this particular run. So we make a note of what these junctions are, write them down. I've already got them listed, and I'll go in here and I will start to enter them in. So sorry, we've got our set junction rule we put in. In here, you go add junction for the junction that you want to manipulate. And I know the first one is T28984. And we want that one. Actually, I'll add all the junctions first, then we'll change them. So we add all our junctions that we want to change as that trigger gets fired. I apologize if anyone's putting anything in the chat. I'm not actually actively looking at it. I will have a look in a sec. 28996 is the next one. There's two more to go. Junction 49660 and junction 49654. Okay, and all of these were going to be to the right. So we change all these so that they face the correct way. And then this is important. If you want them to be locked, that means no one will change them once you put this rule in. They will stay to the right always. Then make sure they say locked. If you don't want that to happen, then you can set them to unlocked. It will change, but if you allow AI control and you don't block AI control, if you allow it, then if you're coming up to something and the AI says, oh, this junction is not locked, and you're allowing me to change it, it can change it, and that might stuff up what you had in mind. So if you freely want them to operate, like allowing the AI to just take over, then leave them unlocked. But if you want them to be only manipulated when you tell the AI it can, then make sure you lock them. And then once they're locked, I believe allows AI control or blocks AI control doesn't matter at that stage if they're locked. You need to unlock them or leave them locked. It's up to you. So we're going to lock them all so that we have priority. And then once we get to our trigger C, yes, trigger C, which is near our destination track marker that we want to get to, you will trigger once, because we only want to trigger it once again, and we'll only accept Adair because he's the one arriving. And we'll get the set of junctions we had here, and what we'll then do is we'll unlock all those junctions so that others can actually use them, other AI trains or other people driving trains, whether it's in a multiplayer game or not, that will unlock the junctions so that they can be manipulated later. And change manually, of course, as well. If you go to click on it in the world when you're driving along, it won't actually allow you to change it if it is locked. You can set them back to anything you want as well. It's totally up to you, but I'm just going to unlock them. So let's start off with that and see how we go. So we load the game or the session. Right, I'm driving this manually. So there's a track marker here and there's a trigger somewhere here. Let's move on down here so you can see this actually happen when the trigger gets hit. You'll see these will start to lock and change. There you go. So a couple of them have changed to the right and they're all now locked because I hit the trigger, or Adair hit the trigger. That's now locked them in place, and I can't, as much as I click, I can't change them. AI can't change them, and now he's on his way to track marker C, or I'm just driving at the moment, but I know where my destination is. You can actually tell it to go there via a driver schedule. It will still do the same thing. And then once we get to the trigger, what we're going to do is make him automatically go and then lock his junctions and release them later as well. So we stop, and they're now, I think we've hit the trigger already because they're now, that's the lock is released. So that's what we told the other trigger to do when we hit it over here, is to release those junctions so that they're back to being unlocked and AI can take over, or we can manipulate them manually in the world. Right, that first bit worked. Now we will automatically create a driver schedule for Alan, this guy here, once we hit this trigger. And the way to see the names is to go into tracks and track mode. There we go. Trigger C, we want Alan to head off. This is trigger C, that's the one we set up earlier. We want to add a driver schedule rule. We want it to be Alan, and we're going to tell him to drive to track marker D, and we're going to kill off any schedules that exist, so he takes this schedule only, but there's a few options you can change there. Right, as soon as that trigger hits, Alan's going to go, I'm going to go off to trigger track marker D, but what we need to do is we need to make sure that these junctions, this one, and this one are all set correctly so he can get to D. And I just so happen to have the list again, so what I'll do is I will go through, and that's going to be to the left, that one's to the left, that one's to the right, that one's to the left, and this one's to the right. So left, left, right is the combination we want. Let's jump into here. We're going to do a set junctions again. So when a dare arrives at track marker or hits the trigger C, we're then going to set a whole bunch of other junctions. Junction 49660 is the first one. We want it left and locked. Junction 49654. We want it left and locked. Junction 49662. We want it right and locked. Junction 49666. Oh, sorry about that. Junction 49666. We want it left. And finally, junction 49680. We want it to the right. And the last one is once Alan gets there to trigger C, heading to track marker D, for trigger D, heading to track marker D. So it triggers once, we're going to track marker D, and it's now got to be Alan. We will set all those junctions to be unlocked again, which will allow anyone to use them. So he's going to go through here, he's going to get to track marker D, and he's going to unlock those 5 junctions that we just locked to make sure he could get to his destination. Right, let's try it out. So we're manually moving this train. These should lock fairly soon. There they are, they're locked. And you see them popping in there, but that's just a distance thing. They are definitely locked. They all locked at once. The dare comes in. We'll stop him. He hits the track marker. And then this guy starts off. Alan decides I'm going to go now. So if you move along here, you can see these are unlocked, and there's a different set of junctions that are now locked. And he's on his way to his destination. Everything's next signals are green, which are good. So it means we've set the junctions correctly. And he's going through. What you'll see is these will unlock once he hits his destination, or the trigger that we set up here. They will stay the same direction because we didn't tell them to change directions, but they will unlock so other people can use them. There you go. So now they're back to being changeable again. So finally what we'll do is, in some situations you can run into a lot of, for instance, the track layout's very complicated and it's hard to tell what junctions you need to change, and it can get a little frustrating sometimes. So if you need to get, or any other scenario where you need to change a signal because it's red and the AI just won't go through, we'll show you a scenario where you can actually just change the signal from red to something else, which will allow your AI trains to go through, because Alan was being controlled by the AI, and if this was red, he wouldn't go anywhere if I didn't have my junction set up correctly. So let's just jump into that scenario, because I believe Rob asked about changing signals as well, and this will be a quick demo of how to actually manipulate a signal. So if we go into, let's find the junction we want. We could probably 666. Yeah, we could probably do that one. Okay. So instead of this one being left, we're going to switch it to right. which in turn will make this signal here be red for Alan. So Alan will get to this signal and say, nah, can't go anywhere because this junction is set wrong. So what we might do is jump into our set junctions rule, and 666 is left, so we'll change that to right. So when Adair hits our track marker C, the junction, so Adair's over here, when he hits track marker C, this junction here, which is 666, I believe, is going to be right. It's going to be switched wrong, which is going to let or make our signal stay red for Alan. And what we'll need to do now is get the signal name 28818 and make sure it's not red so he can pass. But what we'll do is we'll just show you the first instance of what would happen if we set the junction wrong. What key am I using to fast forward the travel? No worries, it's a shift key, and you can find that under settings. You need to turn this option on first. Settings, general settings, enable debug features. Click that, enable that or toggle that on, and then you can use the shift key when driving and it will speed up your session so you can test it a lot quicker. Right, so we're going to demo the signal not changing because of junction 666 is set wrong. So we come through here and he's hit his trigger, and then Alan's decided he can go now, and it says next signal is yellow. So that's this signal, so saying something's happening up next, so be careful, caution. And then the next signal is red, which is this one here. And if we click on the signal, because the line ahead's unsignaled, it'll tell you that 49666 is set wrong, which is why there is a red signal being set for Alan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to override this signal and not change the junction up ahead, just so you can see how to override signals. It's not always a great idea to do this, but I'm just going to show you that you can do this if you need to for any particular reason. So he's changed it. I've allowed AI. Oh, there you go. So I've allowed AI control. So he's got to that signal and said, yes, I'll change it now. So it's still locked, but because we allowed AI control to change it, there he's allowed to, when he gets to a signal and it's red, he says, oh, I'm going to change it, but it's still locked, so we can't change it. So that's an important note, is that setting that to block AI control, if we go into a junction, will not let Alan change that himself. So definitely allows AI or blocks AI from each of these junctions will either allow AI to change it or not. Locked means the user is not going to be able to change it. Okay, so we're going to change our signal in trigger C. So we add a set signal rule, and we know our signal is 28818, I believe. 28818, yeah, I wrote that down. 28818. And we're going to change it to probably caution, because they shouldn't be going through this if it is a red signal. Something's not right, but let's just change it to caution for now, which will allow our AI to actually go through. And then that's it, really. If you get to a problem where the signal just will not change for you, you can do it this way. So now when Alan takes off, he won't stop at that signal now because it is actually set to caution. If we run down to our signal so we don't miss it, Adair will come through. Oh, we need to drive him. So there we go. So he comes through, stop. Then Alan will come through, and you'll see that that's now set to caution. Sorry we weren't looking at it, but it was red and now it's gone to yellow. And even though that's still set wrong up ahead, he's going to come through and be allowed to pass through even though it's still set wrong. But this is not the ideal scenario. So he's actually switched it himself. He's seen it was set wrong and switched it. But if we blocked AI, that wouldn't have changed. Anyway, there'll be some handy places where I'm sure you'll want to use setting the signals manually yourself, but most of the time the AI will take care of it. And that's a quick, brief introduction to triggers. There's a lot more stuff you can do with triggers, or at least add child rules that make sense to when triggers are initiated by Trainz. But I hope that explains your question, Rob, and if there's anything more on triggers, please let us know and we'll continue showing the functionality. Thanks for watching.